And thank you very much for joining us on PM Express. I have a guest tonight who, let me confess, I've been looking forward to interviewing him for a long, long time. He was first the education minister. He implemented one of the most challenging policies of the previous administration, and Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And then he became the version that now people will probably shy away from. And he speaks his mind. He's blunt as you get it. You really find him in places where there's challenge. You'll find his name around because he takes on these challenges. And then sometimes, as you may learn in this conversation, he doesn't shy away from controversy at all. I'm delighted to have him. And he rose to become the running mate to the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party in the last election, which the party lost. I'm talking about Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh. He's my guest on PM Express tonight. I'm grateful
Good day,
that you finally get to sit with me for a conversation.
Finally.
And
I think those who know me will be wondering what brought me to Joy FM.
Indeed. And now that I have you, I need to ask you a question I've always wanted to ask you since the elections last year. As I said, you like challenges. You've been very active. I always wondered whether you even slept because free SHS must have been a nightmare to start with. You had a whole finance minister at the time publicly saying, the way you're going, I have different views. So you could just imagine what was happening in cabinet. And then you have energy ministry. I mean, to live such an active life for 8 years, and then now for the last 10 months, there's almost appears to be nothing happening. At least you've been front and center in our lives. You control education, so we see you all the time. You control our lights. So when the lights went off, Napo, back in the day. How has it been in the last 10 months for you without all the challenges that you took on? You almost seem to live on that.
If as I would say, when there's work to do, you just have to keep your head steady and just do it. I don't believe you do work for the glamorous part of it. You do work to make an impact. So when I'm given a piece of job to do, I just have to deliver. There's no alternative. So whatever that I have to do, in my capacity, with my knowledge, with my experience to deliver and make an impact, don't just deliver, is what I set up to do at every point in time. In the last 10 months, I've been enjoying life.
You have been?
Oh, God. I've been reconnecting.
Do you even have it in you to enjoy life and take it easy?
I've been enjoying life, my brother. I've been reflecting so much. I've been going around the country on a listening tour.
Okay.
I've been reconnecting to my roots. I've been establishing my foot firmly on the ground. I've been mostly listening, reflecting, doing soul search. What's the purpose going forward? So it's been the best time in the last probably 16 years.
I find it hard to believe because you see, the thing about people who are like you, they are driven by the challenge. It's like when there's quiet, they find it difficult to adapt because your DNA is just been built to take on challenges. I find it hard to believe that in the last 10 months you find it easy to just get back into this life of just chilling.
Well, as part of my training as a doctor, right? Mm-hmm. You have time to do everything, but not in an emergency. When you have patients on the ward, you have time to think through their problems, to consult seniors, other people for second opinion. You can go and read journals, you can read books, to tailor make your treatment or your therapy for your patient, really. It is only in emergency, the only exception is emergency. The person is dying. You literally have no time to think, what should I do or shouldn't do? You should just get on with it. You are trained in an emergency to become instinctive. You train yourself so that when somebody falls, you know what to do. So when somebody fell in Parliament, it was instinctive for me what to do. That was the training I've been brought up. So in moments of emergency, when there's tension and everything, that's the time that you can get to soberly bring everything that you have learned over the period experience and just get on it and save a life. So my party has gone through probably one of the most horrible periods of its since its formation. I don't believe so, but people say that we've suffered our worst defeat. I don't believe so, but let's take it that. What do we need to do is to take a step back. When you're a top goal scorer and you break an arm or a leg, it doesn't mean you've been cast aside.
You say you don't believe that it's been your worst.
You go back, you take a step back and reflect and heal yourself. Get back to your nature. Put back your psychology well adapted to winning ways and get back to the field.
I mean, you said something fascinating right now that people say that this was a worst defeat, but you don't believe that.
No, I don't.
Factually, it is.
It's not.
I mean, it's just a matter of records.
It's not.
More than 1 million votes. Nobody had lost that by that
not.
before.
It's not.
On the you have a micro minority in parliament that you last year was part of until now. You have a super majority that you've never seen in the Fourth Republic. All those are factual matters that you can dispute.
You see, you may claim it to be a fact, so you put it around the sunlight, and let's shine the evidence. Let's look at the evidence. In 1992, you had only 30% of the popular vote. In 1996, we had only 38% of the popular vote.
92, you wrote the stolen verdict.
98, 96, we had only 38%. So 2024, if we've had 41%, it is not bad. Actually, the best university in Ghana that I attended, the pass mark is 40. So you might say in quantum terms, in parliamentary terms, even as you tried to say, in 1992 we had 0 parliamentarians.
Yeah, because you took a deliberate decision.
We had 0 parliamentarians.
True, but the decisions and the context was different.
We had 0 parliamentarians.
That's factual.
That's the fact.
But the reason
you didn't talk about reason when you started.
But it's important. Context is everything. The context was
I want
different.
to agree with you today, but you said the fact, and I'm saying when we shine light on your supposed facts, probably it is not.
No, but the context is
As you
important.
reeled them, you said that you've lost by 1.7 million, you've done that, you've done that. I said, if I take it one by one, it's probably not our worst time.
On the parliamentary bit, and
Look,
I know you're the first one to draw it up.
There,
In that election, you wrote a stolen verdict. This
brother,
one, you contested full. You put
my
all
brother,
your weight. You were
my
all
brother,
in,
my brother,
and you still turned out
carefully.
with micro minority.
In 1990, it's not the only stolen verdict, a document we've written post-election we've lost. It's not. It was the first time, but it's not the only document. In 2012, we went even to court. It was more than a stolen verdict. We gathered evidence and went to court. So I'm just saying that everything you've said this morning to me, when you put the sunlight on it, it's probably not our worst time.
So what was your worst time?
1992. Are you telling me if we had not boycotted, we wouldn't have had some seats there?
But you boycotted. That was
Yes,
a
that's what I'm
fact.
saying. That so because of the decision, when you make a conscious effort and make a decision, you get bound by the results of your decision.
That is why
So
that
when we decided
is
we'll
not
go,
comparable to 2024.
when you decided you didn't go, then the result was that you have 0 representation in parliament. You can't say that we would have won, but the election that we participated, we got 30%. The fact that we wrote a stolen verdict didn't dispute the fact that Rawlings was sworn in as the president in 7 January. The fact that we went to court in 2012, President Mahama was sworn in 7 January. Even though my presidential candidate came out of the court and said, we disagree with the court decision, but as Democrats, we abide by it. So that's what I'm saying. Let me take your time. In 1996, we had less than 1/3 the members of parliament. We had less than 1/3. We had 61. NDC, to all intents and purposes, had a supermajority. So if in 2024 we have less than 1/3, is it the first time? Probably not. So I'm just saying that what is true globally when you look at the headlines.
On the
and people like
supermajority,
you live with the headlines. So
on the supermajority bit, which is 2/3 under the Fourth Republican Constitution, it's really not happened before. Outright 2/3 majority.
Would you want me to go through the evidence?
Yes.
In 1992, there was a supermajority of NDC.
Yeah, but you see, the 1992 is always an outlier.
It's not an outlier.
In fact, in our analysis, you would treat that as an outlier.
I wouldn't treat it as an
because
outlier.
the opposition party staging a boycott.
We still participated in the developmental process, the economic engagements. We did everything.
But it was an outlier.
We didn't go to parliament.
That's true. That's what makes it an outlier.
And NDC went ahead with that supermajority to amend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
But that's different from 2024.
That's what I'm saying, that if a supermajority means the ability to amend even the Constitution with its entrenched clauses, it has happened before. It has happened before.
Context.
I'm going to give you a context.
Context.
In 1992, the NDC itself was in government, not on its own steam, but was in government in an alliance with an opposition party. Or that is also not evidential. The vice president in 1996 or in 1992 was called Mensah, true or false?
Yes, he was.
He was not a member of NDC, was he? So just remind your people, he was not a member of the NDC. He belonged to a different political party from the NDC. Flight Lieutenant General John Rawlings himself was not a member. He was co-opted as the presidential candidate of NDC. So, what am I saying? So, what I'm trying to say is that in 1996, Mensah, the certain vice president, because of who NDC had gone to even amend the Constitution and change the role of the vice president, was the running mate of President J. Kufuor at that time. He was not a member of the MPP. The MPP was such a minority at that time that even when they were going for the election, they decided to go with a candidate who was not even their party. It tells you how a minority. So when people now say minority, it's not the first time it's happened.
So the debate around whether it's the first time or not, I mean, it's a matter of record. But I'm interested.
Matter of record.
Yes.
You couldn't even take your own party's candidate because you felt that you needed a big tent to bring other people in. And so in 1996 general election, we had the Great Alliance. And we had taken who? Not somebody from MPP. The NDC, in their so-called supermajority of 1992 and the boycott of the MPP, did not feel themselves satisfied that they alone could. So they had partnered with another political party.
Let's come to 2024.
So let us agree now that the historical record does not bear the statements you made.
No, I mean, I don't want to go into a historical debate because as I've said, the 1992 is always an outlier. 2024 was unique in its own way with all the dynamics.
If I cut out 1992,
yes,
I stay with 1996.
Yes,
I've just showed you post 1996 elections. MPP, we didn't write the stolen verdict, right?
Yes,
we got 38%. Is it 38 or 39%?
Yeah,
of the popular vote.
Yeah,
and we got less than 1/3 the members of parliament.
Yeah.
Had the independents and the other political party that got seats in parliament decided to join the certain government, they would still have had a supermajority. So even now, we have independents joining NDC, even though they are already a supermajority. So I'm just saying that because of context, now everything is amplified more than we want to hear. So it might look as if it's not happened before. But it has happened before.
The 2024 elections, though, you were the running mate. You've had 10 months to reflect, and we started by you telling me about the relaxing period you've had to reflect. I wonder when you reflect now on what happened during that election. What is for you in the last 10 months as you've done the reflection? What stands out for you as we could have done this better or done this differently? What would you say has been the most abiding feeling that comes to mind when you reflect on 2024?
One thing I've come conclusive in the last 10 months is that there was a broken trust.
Citizens to party,
Citizens to government.
to government.
The trust that was broken hurt so much so that we saw the results.
What broke it?
We didn't listen enough. We assumed a lot of things we shouldn't have assumed. Probably our purpose was a bit challenged for us. We have descended, we had gone through the worst global economic climate, medically and economically, or health-wise. Governments around the whole world have been toppled and changed, apart from probably dictatorial governments, autocratic governments. The economic milieu had changed dramatically. A container from China that cost 1,200 logistic-wise had risen to 14,000. People's lifetime savings had been wiped out. People had died in their droves that had never been seen before without a military crisis or world war. So a lot of things had happened. And I say that if you take the context in Ghana, we did so well under COVID that it became a commendation of even advanced countries, how we tackled that. But like I say, you can win a battle and lose the war. So post-COVID, we saw the results very, very early in the 2020 elections, where we came from a majority of over 1 million people to less than half. And because of the decisions that we had to take or we took, we bore the consequences of those decisions. Revenue evaporated, especially in a country where your revenue mainly comes from your port duties, levies and charges. Expenditure went through the roof because unlike other countries, even in Africa, in America and developing world, teachers, nurses were paid for. Nurses went to work, but even teachers who stayed at home for 5-6 months were paid. Civil service offices which closed were still paid. The expenditure ballooned, revenue vanished, evaporated. The economic conditions were harsh, were terribly harsh. Terribly harsh. And a developing country like ours, remember that in 2017 when we came into government, we were undergoing a physical straitjacket of an IMF formula. Just when we escaped and we were growing at 8%, 9%, with so much hope, it was shattered with this health pandemic. So all in all, maybe we didn't listen enough to what the Ghanaian really wanted. Maybe our leadership that was spectacular and stellar at the COVID times was not good enough for Ghanaians at post-COVID. And it's happened. It's not the first time it's happened in this world. Wartime generals, field marshals, victorious Winston Churchill after the Second World War, lost dramatically after that in an election. The people you lead in time of war are not those same people you need in time of peace. Expectations differ. And if you're a leader, if you're a government, and you don't listen, and you don't read the times, the job that we do is based upon public perception. You can lose. You can lose not because of dramatic faults that you've done, but just because people are unhappy.
What got in the way of listening?
Events, I would say. Let me say events. Because I'll give you a classic example. What would take 88 of our MPs, the first time in the history of this country, to openly, publicly do a coup d'etat against his own government.
Against the finance minister.
And the history was that because the economy was bad. I laugh at it today, and I said, for those who are blaming Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia for the economic mess, and especially people like yourselves who sit in front of, behind megaphones, who have a voice, say, oh, he promised this, he was giving us lectures, they say, the fundamentals are bad. But the 88, recall, if it's not true, tell me. We're saying Ofuriatta must go because he was the leader of the economy. True or false?
True.
They didn't say Bawumia must go, did they?
Yeah. It was a campaign against one man.
It was a campaign against one man.
And by the way, it reflected the general mood of the population at the time.
That is what I'm trying to get to you. We didn't even listen at that time. We didn't listen enough. Such that our own, under the colors of MPP sitting in parliament, had to break ranks. Wasn't that a coup d'etat? It was a coup d'etat against the government.
The president should have listened and let Ofuriatta go.
Maybe. Because the consequences was that after that, we never found our rhythm.
Would you say that was a turning point?
I can't say that, my hand on my heart. I wouldn't say that. But that was the culmination of a broken system, of a broken trust.
You said
when a shepherd turns ahead,
and
the sheep are gone, what does he do? He finds out where the lost sheep are. If you don't find where the lost sheep are, you come back home, and your father will not talk about the sheep you brought back. He will talk about the sheep you lost. If the 88 had a case, and they felt they were not listened to, Ghanaians will punish us because of that.
You were punished because of that?
And more. I've just talked about the wartime hero, the pandemic hero, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, became the peacetime rebuilding scapegoat.
You were close to the president. He trusted you with a lot. Why do you think he didn't listen in the specific case of what you call the coup d'etat?
You see,
or was it so difficult for him?
It's always easy when you have Vision 2020, hindsight. You can then look back and say, oh, the president should have done A. But there's no evidence that even if he had listened to removing his finance minister, the horses had already bolted.
But that would have mitigated. It was often mitigation.
That is a speculation. That is a speculation. No evidence to back. You've been worrying me with evidence. No evidence to back what you are saying.
But one thing we know for sure, for certain, is that he did not listen, and the outcome is what we're living with now. The MPP.
I don't believe that he did not listen.
I mean, he did not let his finance minister go.
You see.
The outcome.
You see.
Is the 2024 elections.
Let me see. I'll remind you. If your son comes from school to you and said, Daddy, I lost my lunch, I haven't eaten, and you're home with him alone, and you don't know how to prepare food like I don't know how to prepare food. If I have the resources, I'll say, let me take you out for lunch. If I don't have the resources in my pocket, I'll say, Mommy will come home very soon to prepare you food. At that material time, see, the child is hungry. When Mommy comes home and prepares food, the child will not credit you, the dad, telling him that, oh, you've done well, waiting for your mom to. In that child's mind, when I was hungry, my dad could not give me food. Even though Mama has come and prepared you food. If you look at post-2024, during the IMF and the discussions and rolling out the IMF program and everything, probably we didn't do badly. When you look at the IMF benchmarks and the reviews, we always exceeded the review expectations. We always did. The growth rates and everything, we exceeded the revenues, because we realized that a phrase that the president said during the COVID times We know how to revive economies, but we don't know how to bring dead bodies back to life. And we saw it in the first 2 years of the IMF engagement under our watch. But I'm saying, probably the horses are bolted already. The horses are bolted already.
Let me ask
Come
you.
forward. I would say that in the last year, you don't see a single policy this government touted in opposition before they came to power, which they have rolled out since they came to power. Look at this government has not even had the chance to do a budget on its own that is not constrained by an IMF relationship.
Well, that is not the fact. We'll come to that because that's a whole segment on its
Because
own.
you realize that
That is if I go there now, I need to ask you something on this trend of the NPP so that we can wrap up on this point. So in the 10 months, obviously, you've been doing soul search in the party. I mean, has the MPP, would you say, reconnected with this grassroots, with the average Ghanaian who punished you so severely in the 2024 elections? Have you seen signs that gives you confidence that the party is beginning to reconnect?
The word is restore. We have to, like I told you, broken trusts, lots of assumptions, hurt badly. The only thing you can do is to find a way of restoring. You restore trust through humility. You restore trust through listening. You restore trust through coming up with alternative, better propositions. You restore trust through demonstrating that, yes, you've learned the lesson of a broken leg and the reason for the broken leg. And that once God has helped you to heal, you will never do those same things again. Again. And I'm saying that we assumed that our base would deliver. Ashanti, Bunafu, Eastern region. Our base didn't deliver. Because the trust had been broken.
Has the party begun to reconnect, to fix that? Have you seen the evidence of that in the last 10 months?
Yes.
You have?
Yes, and it's ongoing.
In what way specifically?
It's ongoing.
In what way specifically?
After, we didn't write a stolen verdict, but we set up a Professor Michael Quay's committee to go around and listen to the party and the reasons for which it was this month. Look, you've demonstrated that you believe in facts. Between 2020 and 2024, percentage-wise, President Mahama voters lost vote in Volta region and Greater Accra over 2020 results.
Particularly in the Volta region.
That shocks you, right?
He himself admits it.
Yes.
He actually blamed the MPP for, feeding the Voltarians with...
Everybody will blame somebody for something.
With wrong facts,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That when you look at the number of voters that came on the roll post-2020, really, President Mahama didn't gain even 5 percentage points over the 2020 results. Right? But the supermajority came back because in droves, in dramatic terms, people who had even voted for MPP stayed away from polls. They didn't stream to the benefit of President Mahama. They just stayed and folded their arms. And it's because that it was a trust that was broken. A trust that the people didn't feel that the alternative could master it, could bring us that, restore us to where our expectations were. So even though you've broken trust with us, I don't feel confident enough to go and put my hope in the party that is coming. Even I know that the party that is coming. That's what I'm saying, that we are in the process. We've listened. We've made the necessary changes even to our party constitution that we heard the people talk about.
Should that report have been made public as part of the bearing your soul?
Not necessarily. The timing is so important. Today you walked into a conversation I was having with one of my main persons, and I was saying that in politics 3 words matter: opportunity, timing, and competence. You've gone and you've listened to your people. You should demonstrate to your people that what they told you, you are putting it in effect. your lifestyle should change to a lifestyle that people can link you up with.
What about transparency in what you actually found?
That's
What was the diagnosis? They don't know.
That's what I'm coming. So this diagnosis, if it had not been done, we wouldn't have gone to make constitutional changes where it was necessary.
But to get them to come along with you, you must show them what a diagnosis
That's
is.
what I'm saying. That
There's some who say, publish it. Let's see it.
That is not the majority, but we will come to that.
Do you agree with those?
The timing of publishing has to be looked at in context.
Okay.
The timing of publishing.
When
But
would
this
the
is an
right time
internal
be?
document. This is an internal document. I don't know if you are in an organization and you go and do your 5-year development plan, you necessarily publish in that Joy FM, your program. This is our 5-year development plan.
Except that we are private.
Lady Sarah, it doesn't matter.
You are a public organization.
It doesn't really
Political
matter.
parties are.
It doesn't really matter.
You talk about timing. When do you think the timing will be right?
Matters. In 2016, the contributory report to date has it been published?
Well, it was leaked.
Has
I remember getting a copy.
Has it been published?
I mean, the MPP is different from the NDC, by the way.
No.
It hasn't been. It hasn't been. But MPP.
In governance, you don't say.
The MPP is different.
In governance, you don't want to ever. I don't want to believe you are really saying that the standard that we hold MPP to, when it gets to NDC, we lower it to the grass.
Except that the NPP is different. Your orientation is different.
That NDC is such that
you
cannot
different
hold them
decisions.
to any standard. So you allow them to drag out everybody.
The NDC is certainly not your standard, is it?
No. Is that what you're saying?
No.
I want to know what you are trying to
Is the
allege.
NDC your standard?
I just gave you an example
Yeah.
that the 2016 contributory report.
Is the NDC your standard?
No, I'm saying the 2016 contributory report, we have not seen it published because the NDC maintained that it was an internal document.
But the NDC isn't your standard, is it?
Coming. I'm telling you that the timing matters. When we would receive, in 2020 we wrote a report.
Yeah.
You know that?
You did.
In 2020 we wrote a report. After every major election, NPP has written a report.
When would the timing be right, would you say?
I said we are going through the process. The people are voting and following the process. One of the things people said was that we have excluded a lot of people who have worked from the party. We should find a way of bringing them. We made the changes. We made it applicable immediately. So in this current flag bearership election, we would have nearly 80,000 more people who are going to participate. We have brought in all former executives, all former from electoral area, polling, constituency, regional, national, former MMDCs who have served since 1992 our party. It's a listening process. It's a listening process. But certainly, some of the things people said, which we think that it will not agger well when we put it out, we will not necessarily put it out now. And there's time for everything. Maybe you'll get another leaked report.
I'm so curious, when would you think the right time will be, very briefly? If there's, because you talk about timing, would there ever be a right time to publish it?
Yeah, that time we publish it, it will determine that it is the right time.
Okay.
Because we have to look at everything. It's the National Council of the party that can authorize that it comes out. And if you know, after the flag bearership race, they're going to start from maybe constituency, regional elections, and we'll swear in a new National Council and things like that. And at that time, they'll say that if this is what you've done, we've reviewed the Michael Curry report, we've seen that you have acted to it through detect. Let's release it to the public.
Okay.
It might come out.
The party.
Let's publish it with redacted parts.
Yeah.
It can come out.
The party moved to the idea of this amnesty as part of the healing process, bringing people back, those who have been suspended and done wrong, etc. How far-reaching should that be? Is it a position you support?
I've asked that, has the party said so? Because when the report came out, I was shocked because I don't know at which council meeting that it was. I was told that it has not been a council decision to grant a general amnesty, but for those who the party suspended for one reason or the other, the party is giving them the chance to remove that and come. For those who left the party of their own volition, you have to come back at your own volition. So there's a difference.
Okay. I'm going to take a break. When I return, there's so much more to talk about. He was in charge of education. We'll talk about education, free SHS. I'm curious to learn about his own assessment of his legacy as far as education is concerned. Energy, his thoughts on the 2026 budget. We'll also have an opportunity to ask him his own ambitions for the future. I'm curious about that. Stay with me. And thank you for staying with me. My guest is still Dr. Macho Poku Pempe, who was the education minister. He became the energy minister and then became the running mate to the flag bearer of the MPP. We'll come to that and assess his role in the 2024 elections shortly. But let's pause and look at his legacy when it comes to education. Dr. Macho Poku Pempe. So Nana wins power after the 2016 elections, and one of the first things he decided to do was to implement free SHS. At the time when we were told that almost every cabinet member had, well, it wasn't easy. In fact, we heard from Finance Minister himself publicly in an interview say, "I'm not really sure about boarding, but Nanado, we're told you guys in cabinet that he wants it done, and the person he handed that to was you." I'm curious, why do you think Nanado chose you out of the lot to handle a policy that even among the cabinet ministers, there was skepticism at the time, the way you were about to implement it? Why Napo?
Thank you, Vince. That we had lost 2012 badly. I was the director of elections for 2012 elections.
Yeah.
And the binding philosophy of my mind that I started talking to you about, I put it in a framework of restore. When I became the party's director of elections, I quickly put myself to the task of knowing what elections is about. And I found out very, very, very quickly that talking on campaign platforms, going around doing all those shouting slogans and things like that, like free SHS, free SHS, free SHS. The day of the election, if you don't have an election management system, you would fail. So I promised my party that if they learn what we call the pink sheet, so I introduced the pink sheet, we would hardly lose an election because election accountability matters. And I had to take the whole National Executive Steering Committee, National Council through this because one big man said, we have been here all these whiles, we don't know what you are talking about. But eventually, the party learned and we were able to put evidence to statements to be able to go to court. 2012 court revealed to the whole country that elections are won on. But this philosophy centered around about 7 things, which I call restore. And I was just telling you, if you break trust, you cannot gain power. You only gain power if there's trust. People follow you. And every election result, if you followed, has got nothing to do with the development you have done in the country. We had a green book in 2016, and the green book lost. I was on the platform to say, so if we are talking about development, what Nanado had done in 8 years, probably no government has done that. We still lost. Even though I could probably demonstrate. We still lost. Ghanaians look for more than I've done a road, I've done a hospital. Ghanaians look for more than that. Ghanaians look at the hope that you are bringing to them more than anything. So people have won elections in this country based upon hope, not records. President Kufuor won election in 2000 in this country without any record preceding him of his government or a government of MPP. He won. President Mills won. If I ask you, what was President? He knows the mantra that made me. He was the man of peace. Ghanaians bought it. In 2008 to 2016, when we won, we had a slogan first because we thought it was a paradigm shift. It took Ghanaians nearly 8 years of 2 disastrous elections before Ghanaians said, let us trust these people and see. Let us trust these people. But it was at the back of the government, if you recall, that for 4 years they did not employ any Ghanaian because they went into a catastrophic IMF deliberation, no new employment. They only employed if the person got retirement age or through death. So there was no employment. There was nothing. There was no hope. And we came up with a hopeful message. In 2024, I'm not sure we did inspire hope. So somebody who came with a slogan that I felt and I still feel that is very, very empty. Second budget, nothing on that. A 24-hour economy. It won. It won on hope. It won on hope.
Hope defined by your failure as a government, because then you gave people the alternative of this is what the future could be without the pain of DDP.
Just like the pain we are taking, our leadership are taking Ghanaians through. They felt a 24-hour economy was more hopeful than our message.
Yeah, but back to free SHS.
So I'm coming there.
Yeah.
So that is a trajectory. To be able to come back to office, we need to restore. That's why I say you restore through humility, you restore through thinking, you restore through your better alternatives, you bring hope through service, through organization that determines everything, that you earn the power by your healing process you go through. And that is what I said we are going through. And that is what we went through between 2012 and 2016 when we came back. Because our loss was very, very painful in 2012, such that we went to court. It was 1 year of tension in the whole country, true or false?
It was.
And we felt the evidence we had adduced in court, we should win. And the verdict was shattering. So we had to reconnect with the people again. That, look, it's not the end of the tunnel. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Let us look at our policies again. And we brought hope. I believe that, yes, President Mahama is in office. Yes, he came with a slogan of hope. When you juxtapose to the difficulties we had sent Ghanaians through, the coup d'etat against our own government, the lack of, probably, as you put it, we didn't listen very well, which I believe we didn't listen, the trust we had broken. People felt that, let's give General Mahama, maybe he has learned so much after his painful defeats that he'll restore Ghana to. So he brought the reset agenda, right? So in 2016, in fact, in 2012, near the time of the verdict, I'm told that His Excellency the President at that time, the flag bearer, Nadu, made certain moves that he's thought about it, have conducted myself, the understanding between me and him. He felt that his legacy, if he ever became president, was free senior high school, which was that America was the first country in the democratic world to grant free senior high school, and that catapulted America through the Industrial Revolution and things like that. And he felt that that's what Ghanaians needed. Felt that hard, worked hard, demonstrated the pink sheet, the compilation, working on everything. Then, if we come to government, he's going to entrust me with that sacred vision of his. Because he believed that I was pure blue blood UPP, I had the history, I'd been well educated, I had demonstrated leadership. So he saw in me that I could do it. And he felt that if I couldn't do it, then he doesn't know who's going to do it. And so that faith that he had in me, he entrusted me with that policy. So that's where I was coming from. So even though 2012, the court set us back, when we won in 2016 and he met me the first time, he just said, in the midst of people, nobody understood it, but I got it right. Mensah Samajino, where I said, I was taking you, that's where I'm taking you. Immediately, when I left that meeting, I immediately set up my teams for education, because I'd never been part of the education committee of the manifesto. So I started calling everybody around and started listening to them, what went into the manifesto of 2016. Because that was going to be my Bible. The political Bible was my manifesto promises. So I had to quickly find out how I could deliver. And even though I agree with you that free SHS, thanks to people like you, you have hyped it to become the main policy that that was going to be executed on or live forever in peace.
Yeah.
The scrutiny and everything that people showed, the demonstration. Simple minds don't think that bold visions can be executed. Simple minds. They don't think bold visions. When I say simple minds, I mean, if you don't carry a vision or you haven't never carried a vision, you think things are impossible. So I was not listening to the criticism from within. It was not only Ken Oforiatta who made a public statement. Even another prominent MPP person came and said we should go back and apologize that we can't do free SHS. That's a probably had to go for. So he had the mandate. Ghanaians had given him 4 years to govern. Yeah. Many priorities, and I had to deliver. And so my work was simple: deliver free SHS.
But free SHS had a challenge, which was double track. In fact, Harun Idrisu, who is your predecessor, said something recently. He says, quote, "The double track system has impacted negatively on quality. Students have fewer contact hours, less study time, which affects their performance." In the 2026 budget, they now have a 2-year roadmap to roll it back. They devoted $1 billion to fix it. What's your own verdict on double track?
Thank you. Can we take one by one what he said?
Double track system has impacted negatively on quality. Students have fewer contact hours.
Wait. I'll deal with it.
Quality? You want to stop on quality?
Yeah, I'll deal with it. The only measure of quality that we have used in the last 60 years in this country is outcome of West Africa Examination Council. The first time that all the 4 core subjects that gains you entry into the tertiary system, we've had more than 50% of our students passing all the 4 core subjects happen in 2020 in this country. And the senior high school, and the SSS certificate, and the WASI certificate. The first time. The best results ever since we joined WAEC as a country happened in 2020, after 5 months of COVID, where 88 of all those students in West Africa who got 8 A's, 88% were from Ghana. That is not only it. The top 3 students in the whole of West Africa came from Ghana that year.
This was when you were still the Minister for Education.
That was the first cohort of free SHS.
Who graduated.
And subsequently, the results have been better and better and better as to the number who passed the 50% mark.
Still proud of double track?
Okay. So I've answered the quality. Our only measure that all governments have measured the quality is the outcome of the results. We can talk about other measures of quality, but what we can agree on, because they were in government 8 years before we came. And if you do recall, under Professor Nano Opoku-Agyeman's tenure at the Ministry of Education, when they assessed a random number of countries in around the world, and they checked primary 2 pupils, and they ranked, Ghana was worse, such that she took Ghana out of comparative examination tests. We have restored Ghana back to comparative education tests, and we are doing well. We are topping. Recently, something came out of Africa, and we were second. Our free SHS has won police everywhere. I've been invited to give lectures in Oxford. I've been invited to give lectures in Harvard. I've been invited to be a teacher of other Ministry of Education of the work that we've done. We've opened ourselves to proper scrutiny, not sloganeering.
What about contact hours, less study time? And you spoke to parents, and parents will tell you, because by the way, my brother was a beneficiary of free SHS too. It was positive for my pocket because I paid for 4 of them to go to school.
We are not talking about financial assets, but okay.
Let's go on the contact hours.
Okay.
I found that challenging myself.
But it's not true. You see, you always have to look at
and less study time.
Yes, you always have to look at the contact hours. Before free SHS, the total contact hours that a child had in a year was 1038. Free SHS moved with 1,120. The contact hours. And this is what we demonstrated by increasing the school period in a day, by increasing the hours in the day and the time they stayed in school. This is evidential. It's not just talk. So I'm not going to criticize Haruna. I'll just say that those who are giving him his statement don't know what they are talking about. And he also read it without cross-checking. Evidential. We increased contact times with double track. Because we moved the calendar from 3 terms to 2 semesters. And we increased the number of hours. And I'm saying that it was also the first time in about 10 years that we could complete the curricula in time for the exams. And I'll explain. Do you recall that under Okujetu as a deputy minister, we were doing school selection even in December? Check, go to the newspaper headlines. We're doing school selections under a system that schools, the first term of the 3-year calendar, the 9-term calendar, was wasted. Students never went to school. Free SHS was the first time for about 10 years that first-year students went to school the same day as continuing students. Fast forward. Exams, WASSCE exams, was started in February. When February was not even the second term, the third term, they were out of school. So in the final year, you lost 1 term first year. You lost 2 terms because you started the exams in the beginning of the second term. So the 9-term curricula that was designed for senior high school, we wasted 3 out of the 9 and nothing curricular-wise. That's why the results were bad. If you recall, under Mensah's commission report under President Kufuor, they said that because we can't put everything that we need in that, we should increase the number of years to 4 years. And that's why under President Kufuor, we increased the number of 4 years.
Yeah.
And if you recall, the results of President Kufuor's 4 years was spectacular. And President Mills came and reverted. So for about 3 years, even the NDC didn't publish WASSCE results because the difference was dramatic. So we have always known that it is not the number of terms, it's your contact hours. It is one of the mark of quality of education. Even, I believe that, I'll draw your mind to something. People now go to school and do evening courses, right?
Yeah.
You go to Gimpa, they do law courses, they do weekend courses, right? But when they go for the weekend, they stay about only 9 hours. So a normal student will do, say, company law and take maybe 20 hours. In the normal school, it's 20-hour curriculum or credit. It will take him 5 weeks or 6 weeks in a semester. The evening or Saturday weekend student will take 2 days in doing that because it's all packed in that. It's the contact time. We go to school, we do executive courses in Oxford, Cambridge, and we go and do a whole year's course in 6 weeks. It's contact hours. It's contact hours. So what happened was that we increased the contact hours. The third point, it's not true. So the third point, Haruna is wrong. What is the third point?
It's the same. I mean, the small amount of steady time.
That's not true. It's not
which
true
affects
as well.
performance.
We even paid teachers to give extra tutorials. You can ask the unions. We agreed with them. We paid teachers to give extra tutorials.
That's a very strong defense of the free essay. But let me ask you, were not there forever. You were there for, I believe, what, 4 years, if I'm not mistaken? No, but
So I wanted Haruna to see something.
Yeah, you have a final message for Haruna. Okay.
The total number of students within the 3-year cohort of free SHs under their watch was less than 900,000 students. Right, and that was about 1.2 students that were coming through every year, 400,000 per year. But by the time they reached SSS exams, about 400,000 had fallen through because they couldn't stay in school, because they couldn't pay fees. They got distracted with Parent-Teacher Association, sacking people from schools and things like that. They got distracted with exams fees they couldn't pay. For 4 years or 8 years at the NDC, they sent no textbook to secondary school. That's the whole thing, that evidential. I read Nano Pokuajman's handing over notes, and when I quoted, people were worried. The things she herself said in those notes, and things have changed.
Your government had the roadmap to phase out double track.
And when we were rolling out, when we were bringing out double track, I stood on the podium of the Ministry of Information, and said that we will phase it out in 5 to 7 years. The evidence is there.
Okay.
We didn't make. And by the time I left the ministry, we could have phased it out.
So what happened? What stopped you?
You just said I wasn't there.
Yeah. Okay.
But we had gone and done a lot of things.
Okay. So
that my final year.
So safe to say that that target wasn't achieved because you left to energy.
I said when I left, I wasn't responsible. But before I left, the last admission into SSS placement, we gathered all the people. There was only 2 schools that had failed to be able to go to mainstream.
Yeah.
Then notice, of the over 700 secondary schools in Ghana, less than 50%, or just about 50%, were the ones doing the double track. It was just 50%. And the reason was that in Ghana, secondary school was an individual's choice. And then we had very good schools that everybody wanted to go to, and we have other middle schools and other poor schools nobody wanted to go to. But when you look at the sheer numbers, we have more places available for students than all the students who are coming.
And you make an important point, which I wanted to come to, which is the phase out period. The government failed to meet that target, even in the end of 2024. You give 5 to 7 years. It didn't happen. Why do you think that was the case?
Well, I don't think with any reason we stated makes a good enough case, because we should have. There was no way by the end of 2021 we should not have been in a single phase. And like I said, we did the math so well that I presented a document to cabinet to say we are phasing out double track. In fact,
but there must have been a reason why you didn't.
That is what I said. I'm not. I don't have the reason why we couldn't.
But you should have.
But when I've spoken to the people who worked in education, they claimed there was not a double track after 2021, but there was something else, which was not the double track as we had seen it, because most of the schools, because we did a whole infrastructure program that had delivered, that all the schools with the numbers that were coming through could have gone.
Is it because your successor didn't buy into the vision
no,
as you had originally
but I'll tell you why.
articulated?
Even when I was the minister, the double track had become so successful. You remember that the double track affected the second cohort of the Free Senior High School, and their results are spectacular, even more than the first cohort. So there were people in cabinet, we could put a lot more students through the category A schools. When I started, a school like Wesley Girls admitted probably 500, 600 students for the whole school, or even less. By the time I left the ministry, they were admitting more than 1,000 students. And we're putting a lot of infrastructure through. So when you expand the infrastructure, there's always the temptation that these schools can now, even when we continue the free the double track for some time, they can admit a more number of students. There's always a temptation.
It's very clear that you're very passionate about free SHS, and seeing that you set a vision, would you
I
say?
didn't set the vision.
Well, the president did.
You
implemented the vision. I mean, but you articulated it, and I mean, in you said it, in cabinet, defense, etc. Seeing that you did all that, would you say, in that flawlessly executed policy and the initial years, that the fact that you did not meet the target of phasing out when I say you, I don't mean personally, I mean your government, phasing out the double track by the time that you had envisioned would have been, would say, one of your regrets when you look back on that legacy?
When the Minister for Finance did the budget, they said how many years would they phase it out?
2. I mean, this current
does it include the 2025 we just passed?
Well, so this was the 2026 budget. So then it stands to reason 2026, 2027. Because the allocation is $1 billion for 2026.
But the allocation of $1 billion would not have achieved its effect by the end of 2026. That's why they said 2 years. So we have to look at the allocation of 2027.
But my question...
I'm drawing your thing before I answer my question, because you end up in the answering it yourself. So even now, there's nothing that shows in 2027 we can do it.
But at least they have a target, which you also did.
We had a target.
Yeah, but that's my question. That's my point. Is there a regret?
I told you, when we set the target in 2018 to face that in 5 years, when you even add 2018, the 5 years would have happened in 2023, right? Assume all things being equal. But me and you know that even during the free SHS years when we started, we were hit with COVID, which disrupted everything.
Okay.
Not only COVID, then we were hit with the
Is that a
economic-
justification you're offering for missing the
So
target?
the monies that we even had to even work was constrained. True or false? That is why we went to IMF.
Okay.
We went to IMF because we couldn't balance our
Let me ask you one more thing on free SHS, and we can move on.
So
Because-
I hope sincerely that the government will get the funds. The funds would accrue to the government in a manner that everybody can go to school. But they will still be doing the same thing.
When it's the same thing, how do you mean?
The same curriculum.
Okay.
They're not changing curriculum.
But
They're
yeah,
not
of
changing
course, I mean,
textbooks.
this is reason.
Yeah,
But you don't mean they will continue with the double track because they have a clear vision.
No, the double track per se did not reduce any quality. Did not.
Okay.
In fact, it increased access.
And you've articulated that. Final point on free SHS. I mean, post your tenure as an education minister, the Public Interest and Accountability Committee had a free SHS implementation monitoring report that they released. And a few things they found that
What year?
this was the latest yet. This was a 2024 period. And some of the things they found quite interesting. I mean, you were not there. That's the point I'm making.
So make it right.
Yeah, no, of course. Just for that. But this is your legacy, by the way.
But that's what you hold out.
Yeah. For the avoidance of doubt. And that's why I prefaced my question by asking that you had left. But they found delays in food supply, corruption in food supply, funding delays. What's your comment on these findings?
I don't know about funding delays because that was general. As I said, we are going through a harsh economic period. So there were funding delays for everything. There were funding delays for everything.
And the delays in food supply and corruption?
It's not, that in itself is not. But the food supply delay was avoidable. Because you know that the first years of free SHS, if there was a problem, it wasn't with food. It was with stealing of food. It wasn't with food getting to kids. It was the food were there such that other interested parties were stealing from the schools and were being arrested. So, and I knew from day one, that's the reason why I argued in cabinet to bring on buffer stock. I knew from day one that the easiest wrecker and bad publicity for free SHS will be if we miss the food supplies. Secondary school food has not been the greatest since early 60s or something. It has not been the greatest. You don't go to secondary school because you're going to eat excellent food. But I also knew that when we came, school supply, food situation in schools was such dire that in certain schools, the numbers that were fed in breakfast, lunch, and supper were different. And students were eating from private canteens, even in some very, very good schools. So if you want to change that, and you are not with the hostility of those who are benefiting from extra foods being sold on the campuses, if you're going to do it and you don't set up a system that will guarantee food, there's going to be a problem. My trump card at that time was we had a committee called the Food Committee. The Food Committee was made up of bearers, domestic bearers, and matrons of all the secondary schools. They had an association. They brought a select team. Then we brought people from Ministry of Agric, and National Buffer Stock, and Ghana Education Service on the table. Designed the menu. And they are the ones who even informed me that during PAMSCAD, probably very, very when we are going through structural adjustment program of the PNDC days, because something PAMSCAD, program to mitigate the social cost of adjustment. And during the PAMSCAD days, the economy was very, very dire. Food was supplied by the development companies in various regions. So Sedicom was in Central Region, Ashcom was in Ashanti Region. These committees were there, and they bought the food and supplied to the schools because you couldn't stop boarding education in Ghana. So the food had to be supplied, and there was economic deprivation everywhere. So Sedicom and these Ready Cash and things bought the food. So it was the domestic business that drew my mind to, let's find for the common food that we all eat in Ghana. Let's find somebody, an aggregator, who could buy the food in bulk and get it at a lower price and distribute. For me, it made sense. Because fuel in this country, the price of fuel in this country is the same in Pusiga a litre of fuel, as in Wale Wale, as in Elubo, as in Aflawo. You know why? Because there's a levy on the fuel that is redistributing, that makes sure that the transporter of the fuel from the depot in Tema to Pusiga will get paid differently for the cost price of the fuel. So we share certain burdens. So they made me much more aware that if we did the same thing for the food and we get the suppliers. So we had suppliers who buffer stock engaged, not the Ministry of Education. We did the food menu and they told us how much rice, if the school is a 1,000-bed school, how much rice if they eat rice. Very, very brilliant committee. So that is what buffer stock. So buffer stock was buying only 17 or 40 or 18 items. And the rest of the money, nearly 30%, was given for the school to buy what we call perishables. So it's never true that the buffer stock was buying everything. Buffer stock was buying those things that if you didn't, the prices would be very, very different in Upper West than in that. So when the NDC came, the first thing they did was they'll give the headmasters the money.
To do themselves.
They gave the headmasters the money.
So then
they gave the fastest headmasters. And after 3 months, I told my brother, I said, look, open your eyes.
When you say your brother, who do you mean?
Haruna. I said, open your eyes. It's your government policy, so roll it out. But open your eyes. It will cause problems. And within 6 months, they had stopped. Because you see, the headmaster that is in Sanarigu and the headmaster that is in Tema, when they go to the market where they are, the prices will be very different. And so you realize that there will be food shortages in schools that you haven't envisaged because you are not leveling it out.
So as part of this architecture, how come the PIAC was still picking up delays, but also food corruption, food supply corruption?
Because the food supply came, and I'll say this. When the supplier took the food to school under the express orders of buffer stock, there were signatories to the receipt of the food in the school and give it to somebody to look after. So the matron was aware, the school stores guy was aware, the head was aware, they signed before we paid. The food was delivered in the schools. When the architecture for food supply changed and Ghana Commodity Exchange was brought, my understanding was that they aggregated the schools in one lorry station or one school park, like say in Kumasi, they'll bring 5 schools to Ahmadiyya Secondary School and come and pick your schools, assuming the school had a bus or something, or took a transport. And during the conveyance of those things happened. Because once the schools come to you at the center and take, they will sign the receipts and give it to you.
Yeah.
But you are not sure it will leave the center.
But I'm curious, the architecture you set up was working. Why did they have to change? Same government.
I don't know. It's the same government doesn't mean even within governments, you don't change policies.
Okay.
Maybe people thought they could make it better.
You were the running mate. In your reflections, what would you say was Dr. Marto Poku Pempe's own role in that defeat?
I think my role has been public, right? It's been public. Probably very well misunderstood. But I can tell you one. I can tell you 2. I can admit 3. 1, I said Mokwame and Nkrumah. They took it out of context. And my statement was that in the 8 years of Nanado's government, the schools, the roads, the things that has been built, Kwame Nkrumah comes nowhere near.